What happens when a man consumed by desire stumbles upon the voice of wisdom? Can one encounter with a spiritual teacher transform a life built on fleeting pleasure? And what awaits a soul once it dares to confront the emptiness behind indulgence? Once, in a quiet corner of India where dusty roads curled between rice paddies and banyan trees shaded the village square, lived a young man named Ranik. Known throughout his village for his energy and charm, Ranik was someone who worked tirelessly, not out of duty or purpose, but out of ambition. His life revolved around money, pleasures, and chasing desires that never truly satisfied. He was always in pursuit of something more wealth, more women, more excitement. The deeper questions of life, morality, purpose, or inner peace never even crossed his mind. Ranik was not evil or cruel, but he was disconnected. His days blurred together with business dealings and late-night escapades. Villagers gossiped about his many romantic entanglements, and although he smiled at their whispers, his heart remained untouched. He had grown numb to the consequences of his actions, brushing them aside as if they didn't matter. And in a way, he believed they didn't. To him, life was short, and pleasure was the only thing worth chasing. But sometimes, life brings us to unexpected crossroads. One afternoon, as Ranik wandered through the village market, something unfamiliar caught his attention. A group of people had gathered beneath a large peepal tree, listening in silence to the voice of an old man seated calmly on a raised platform. It was Gautam Buddha, a name Ranik had heard in passing, though never cared to understand. Yet something about the calmness of the crowd, the focused gaze of the listeners, and the peaceful presence of the speaker pulled him in. Without even realizing it, Ranik found himself stopping just for a moment to listen. Buddha was speaking about the invisible threads that connect actions to consequences. His voice, though gentle, carried the weight of truth. He spoke of morality, of the way desires, when ungoverned, can become chains. He explained how every action sows a seed, not just for this life, but for lifetimes to come. These were words Ranik had never truly heard before, not just with his ears, but with his heart. He edged closer. Something about the message stirred him. A part of him, long silenced, began to listen, and before he could stop himself, he stood at the edge of the crowd, his mind filled with questions he had never dared to ask. When the talk ended, Buddha's gaze swept across the crowd and landed on Ranik. With the same calm grace he had shown while teaching, Buddha approached and asked softly, "What is your name, young man?" "Ranik," he replied, a bit startled. But then, in a moment of unusual openness, he began to share his story. He told Buddha about his lifestyle, his constant pursuit of pleasure, his many lovers, and how none of it ever truly made him feel fulfilled. He admitted for the first time his confusion, his silent yearning for something deeper. Buddha listened with deep compassion, never judging, never interrupting. Then, after a pause, he said, "Ranik, you are wasting your seed. Every time you indulge in sex without love, without awareness, you pour out the most vital energy of your being. That seed is meant to create life, meant to carry forward not just the body, but the spirit. When it is misused, you not only harm your future, but diminish your present." Ranik blinked, stunned. He had never considered such a thing. How could something he had always seen as fun, casual, even meaningless, be so significant? "Should I stop having sex altogether?" he asked, with genuine concern. Buddha smiled kindly. "No, Ranik. Sex, in its purest form, is sacred. It is not the act itself that is harmful, but the intention behind it. When sex is shared in love, with respect and commitment, it becomes a blessing. But when it is used carelessly, it becomes a source of suffering. Do not waste your gift on moments without meaning. Instead, wait. Wait for a connection that is honest, respectful, and aligned with your values. Something within Rannick shifted. It was as though a veil had been lifted, and for the first time he saw himself. Not as a man chasing pleasure, but as someone who could choose a different path. And so he did. From that day forward, Rannick made a quiet vow to change. He stepped away from casual encounters, from the cycle of instant gratification. At first, the change was difficult. The temptation to return to old habits tugged at him. But each time he remembered Buddha's words, he began to seek not just a lover, but a partner, someone who would walk beside him, not just in passion, but in purpose. Months passed. Rannick had remained celibate, not out of fear, but out of commitment. He was proud of his self-discipline. And yet, a new challenge arose: loneliness. He had changed, but had not yet found someone to walk this new path with him. Doubt began to creep in. Would anyone understand this journey? Was he meant to walk it alone forever? Then one day, life answered again in the form of a simple encounter. As he walked near the village well, he saw a woman struggling to lift a heavy bundle of firewood. Without thinking, he rushed over to help. They walked together, chatting lightly, the way strangers sometimes do. And slowly, in that simple moment of kindness, something remarkable unfolded. As seasons slipped by, the bond between Rannick and his companion deepened like rich soil drinking in monsoon rain. What once felt merely physical now shimmered with new meaning. Each shared embrace became an act of gratitude, a celebration of life's creative force rather than a hurried conquest. With every affectionate glance, Rannick silently thanked the moment beneath the peepal tree, the moment when Buddha's words had nudged him onto this wiser path. Who could have guessed that a single teaching would turn desire into devotion? Years unfolded, and the couple welcomed a radiant baby boy whose laughter rang across the village lanes. Holding his tiny fingers, Rannick sensed the vast chain of cause and effect stretching both backward and forward in time. He and his partner poured tenderness, respect, and mindful discipline into their son's upbringing, weaving Buddha's guidance into bedtime stories, morning chores, and playful lessons beneath banyan shade. Instead of issuing rigid commands, they asked gentle questions. What does kindness feel like? How does honesty taste on the tongue? So that morals grew inside the child like seeds sprouting without force. Rannick's gratitude only deepened. He knew that listening to Buddha had not robbed him of pleasure. It had multiplied it, layering joy with purpose. Determined never to drift from that wellspring, he attended every teaching he could, sometimes traveling at dawn just to sit near the sage's serene presence. He studied the Four Noble Truths, seeing how suffering arises from clinging, and committed himself to the Eightfold Path, step by careful step. Was it easy? Certainly not. Some mornings, old habits whispered temptations. Some evenings, impatience flared. Yet each stumble reminded him why discipline mattered, and each small victory brightened his inner sky. Time, like a patient sculptor, chiseled Rannick's youthful restlessness into calm wisdom. Neighbors who once gossiped about his escapades now sought his advice on marriage, work, even meditation. He offered no lofty sermons, only honest stories of his own struggles, punctuated by Buddha's simple truths. Young men especially gathered around him, hungry for guidance amid their own storms of desire. Rannoch listened first, counseled second, and always left them with the question that had changed his life. What seed are you sowing with today's actions? One tranquil dusk, while seated in meditation by the river's edge, Rannoch felt a luminous stillness descend. In that hush, a vision arose, Buddha standing before him, eyes tender, voice as soothing as cool water. "Rannoch," the master said, "you have walked well. Your life now reflects morality and spirit, and your lamp has lit many other lamps. Yet remember, learning never ends, generosity never exhausts. Keep opening, keep offering." The vision faded, but a warm certainty lingered in Rannoch's heart, urging him to serve even more deeply. Decades rolled onward. Silver threaded through his hair, wrinkles mapped gentle memories across his face, yet his eyes retained a youthful spark. He witnessed his son grow into a thoughtful young man, admired by peers for his integrity. He saw former mentees become guides themselves, spreading the same seeds of responsibility and compassion. Looking at them, he realized that true wealth lay not in stored coins, but in the quiet flowering of transformed lives. Eventually, the body that had once been so feverish with craving grew tired. Rannoch sensed the closing of life's circle, but there was no fear, only a soft gratitude that filled every breath. When illness signaled the nearing farewell, he gathered family and friends around his bed. Candlelight flickered on familiar faces as he recounted his journey, from reckless pursuit to awakening under the peepal tree to the steady joy of a life aligned with Dharma. He urged them, in voices both tender and firm, to continue walking the moral path and to share Buddha's wisdom whenever they could. His final words were a gentle blessing: "Plant good seeds and let love be the water." With one last exhale, steady, serene, Rannoch slipped beyond the veil. Those present felt not despair, but an almost tangible peace filling the room, as though the very air acknowledged a purpose fulfilled. He left behind more than memories. He left a living legacy of mindfulness, kindness, and unwavering responsibility that would ripple outward for generations. The life of Rannoch, once ruled by fleeting pleasures and selfish pursuits, gradually became a shining example of transformation through morality and spirituality. His story reminds us that every action has a consequence, whether we notice it or not. And perhaps more importantly, it teaches us that we are responsible for those consequences. There is no shortcut around this truth. The road to lasting happiness is not found in chasing pleasures. It's built on a foundation of wisdom, awareness, and compassion. When Buddha told Rannoch not to waste his seed, the message went far deeper than sexual discipline. It was a call to honor the sacred resources each of us has been given: our energy, our time, our talents, our words. Too often, people spend years chasing goals that bring no real peace, pouring their vitality into things that vanish like smoke. But Buddha's wisdom reminds us to invest in what truly matters, in the kind of life that brings depth, not distraction. This story also offers a powerful truth. Change is always possible. Rannoch didn't begin his life on a path of virtue. He made mistakes, wandered far from wisdom, and lost himself in ego and desire. Yet, when the right words reached his heart, he chose a different direction. That choice wasn't easy. It required courage, effort, and time, but it changed everything. Isn't it comforting to know that no matter how long we've been walking the wrong path, we can always choose to turn around? There are several key lessons we can take from Ranek's journey. 1. A life guided by morality and spirituality leads to real peace. Ranek only began to experience true fulfillment when he aligned his life with Buddha's teachings. The Eightfold Path and the Four Noble Truths weren't just ideas to him. They became practical steps he followed every day. Through these teachings, he discovered that inner peace is not about escaping life, but embracing it wisely. 2. Our resources are sacred and limited. Whether it's sexual energy, time, strength, or creativity, everything we have is precious. Wasting these on meaningless pursuits is like pouring water into sand. But when we use them with awareness, they can nourish something far greater, lives filled with love, purpose, and service. 3. It's never too late to begin again. Ranek changed after years of careless living. His story reminds us that our past doesn't define us. It simply shapes the soil we grow from. What truly matters is the direction we choose moving forward. 4. Wisdom shared becomes a gift that keeps giving. Ranek didn't just change himself, he inspired others. He shared what he had learned, mentored the younger generation, and passed on Buddha's teachings. This ripple effect continues long after his life ended, showing us that when we grow, we help others grow too. So what does this mean for us? It means we must take responsibility for our choices, for our energy, for the lives we touch. We are all sowing seeds through our actions, our words, our silence. What will grow from the seeds we plant today? Ranek's story urges us to live intentionally, to honor the sacredness of our brief time on earth, and to leave behind not just accomplishments, but values, love, compassion, and wisdom that can live on in those who follow. And most importantly, it reminds us that the greatest legacy is not in what we possess, but in what we pass on. If this story has touched your heart or sparked a moment of reflection, we invite you to become part of our journey. Subscribe to Buddhism Seeds to receive more timeless teachings. Give this video a like if it resonated with you. Share it with someone who might need this wisdom today, and gently leave a comment below. We'd love to hear how this message spoke to you. Together, let's keep planting the seeds of compassion, clarity, and inner peace, one mindful moment at a time.